I think over the years, and I kind of told you about my mantra starting in 2018, I'll only work with good, honest people with integrity who are also fun and nice to work with. And that's why your question stood out on the phone. You said, hey, how can I help you? We were talking about real estate, different things. And I was like, it's rare that people ask that. It's really rare that people say, what can I do for you? Even to a random stranger, even to business partners. Usually they're like, hey, what can you do for me? And they take. And very few people, even in marriages and relationships, are interested in what can I do for you today? So that was so tell me why you asked that question, and what's kind of behind that?
I don't know. I feel bad. I mean, I try to ask that. I'd like to say that no, I think I do. I try to make a habit of it. I'm stuttering like crazy. I apologize.
No worries.
No, it's really important for me to have my feedback loop, so, like just the other day, I was at, I had 15th wedding anniversary with my wife.
Nice.
The night.
Congrats.
And, it was great. But every anniversary I ask her the same thing. I say, honey, how can I be a better husband?
That's awesome.
And she hates answering it. She's like, I'm not doing this. And she'll usually give you an answer like, you can be easier on yourself or something like that, Yeah. And I'm like, no, you got to give me a real answer, But I think I've always been like really passionate about, the feedback loop. And I think that's probably where it stems from. I know that at our company, we have like people are ready to roll over and die because there's always an evaluation of every meeting. It's scale of 1 to 5. Just hold your hand up.
I love that.
We quickly count them. Every meeting gets evaluated. It came from a Goldman Sachs class, 10 years ago, and that you do a little evaluation, and if anything scored less than a 4, you pull those people aside. You have a little powwow, like, I'm so sorry. It sounds like we wasted your time.
Yeah.
What's going on? So when I say like, hey, how can I help you? I think it's that same thing of like, I think it stems from that same ideal of just kind of like, you called and you offered your help. And so I think we're in relationships. I don't know. I think it's a good habit to mimic reciprocity.
Yeah.
Is that a double?
Yeah.
Might be redundant, right?
Practice reciprocity for sure. That's huge. And so how does that affect, and I didn't even introduce you yet, but let's assume they already know you run a successful auto repair chain. And so at Master Muffler, right?
Master Muffler, we just rebranded to Master AutoTech.
That's right, Master AutoTech. So you guys have 27 locations now?
27 locations.
That's cool. And you said until recently, almost all of those locations were opened by employees from within, or people from within the company.
Right. We opened up in 1963. And, some of the big names, Midas, Meineke, they all grew to 1,000 units, and we just stayed small.
Yeah.
We'd like to change that, but I think part of it is we didn't use franchising as its traditional growth strategy, right? Franchising, you can grow, like, you talked about, hey, we're going to go out, we're going to get people with money, we're going to get their money, right?
Yeah.
As you raise capital, right? And so you're going to people with lots to get a chunk of theirs, and franchising is kind of that same idea. You're growing with somebody else's money, but you're going the other way. You're going for someone, with less capital. It's like, hey, come invest, make a small investment in this, in a franchise system. And so franchising is nothing but a growth strategy.
Yeah.
Right. And so with us, it wasn't really so much like, we didn't start it as a growth strategy. It was just kind of like, hey, we have managers that are really successful. They want to take the next step. And it's like, hey, you've been profitable for us. Why don't you just go be profitable for you? And you're already doing it, go open a store, or you buy this one from us. And a lot of times too, usually they start out as partnerships. We kind of have like this growth evolution, right? Where you start as a manager, and then typically managers, we're in the automotive. We're not like poor as church mice, but it's tough to get your nest egg going. And so they'll typically partner, they'll buy 25% or 1/3 or 1/2 of a store. That store will grow, get profitable, and then that business will be the engine that buys out the rest of that. So a lot of the franchisees were once partners, once managers, almost all of them were managers, right? And then partners, and then full franchisees, and a few of them are taking on second locations. So that's kind of how it's been this last year. Just as barely we rebranded, because no one wants a Master Muffler, right?
Sure.
Like
Not a lot of muffler shops anymore.
No, you used to come in
Yeah.
for an oil change and a tailpipe.
Yeah.
Right now,
Yeah,
cars are going to their grave with the original exhaust on them. There's no mufflers on a Tesla. I was going to say back in like the early 2000s, they predicted the end of the muffler shop just because exhaust systems went from aluminized and galvanized steel. I don't know if it was galvanized, but aluminized steel to stainless steel.
Sure.
And so they just didn't go bad. They just,
Right.
people haven't been in steam for a long time. So that's when you remember it was Midas Muffler back in the day.
Yeah.
I'm showing my age now, right? And if you remember, it's showing yours too, right?
Yeah.
It used to be Midas Muffler. There was Monroe Muffler, Tuffy Muffler, Monroe Muffler. So they all dropped the name Muffler from their name. Now,
Sure.
Midas Complete Auto Care, Tuffy Tire and Alignment, right?
Yep.
And they all ran away from it. And these are all chains with hundreds and sometimes thousands of locations. We held on. We stayed Master Muffler. We're like the last standing chain in America, right? With these many locations all branded under the name Muffler. And we said, okay, it's time to rebrand. We've actually been in the process since 2017, like just doing research and research, right? Trying to find out, hey, we only get one chance to rebrand, right? And so anyways, we just barely rebranded to Master AutoTech this last year. And since then, we've actually gotten some organic interest, which has never happened before. People came to us and were like, hey, we see what you're doing. We kind of like it. Tell me about it. Yeah. And so there's one that came on, and there was a shop that the owners just passed away, and we knew him for a long time just from working with him. And so we were able to purchase that from the family. And then another one was out in Tooele called Santec. Heather and Jason Katselis, incredible operators. They were struggling a little bit trying to figure things out. They opened their own shop 2 years ago, and they were growing really, really fast. And like, hey, I think it'd be good if we could pass off some of accounting and branding and legal and operations and get some help. And so they joined the fold, and they were not previous employees. So we're kind of getting this idea like, hey, maybe we could use franchising for the real strategy, what it is intended for, is to help people from the outside. So right now we're trying to, some light effort is being put into, trying to make things to where someone on the outside could come in and understand it and have the tools in place to operate it.
That's awesome. And, I run a company. I have not a ton of employees, but franchising to me means two things. People need help with finding people and systems and operations. Yeah. And so maybe this couple in Tooele, they had the people in place, they were doing good, but the systems and operations were stressing them out or too much.
Right.
Or you may have someone that's really good at systems and operations, but they can't seem to understand the personnel side.
Yeah.
And right now we have about 500 doors in Cleveland, really good properties, but the property manager is lacking in both. Like he was small, and when he was a small property manager, he just had a few really good core people. But we added 500 doors to his portfolio to manage, and systems just didn't grow with us. And then he really started to struggle hiring people. And we've made property management switches multiple times. El Paso, we've switched twice. Dallas, we switched once. Trying to think. Albuquerque, we've switched. So what I've seen is sometimes they have problems with both, but usually they're lacking in one area.
Yeah.
And those are the two biggest I've seen. So and the reason I kind of asked you about that question that you asked me, how can I help you? Is when you're franchising and when you're building a company, I can tell people are probably really important to you. You seem like that type of person. You care about people. And it's really, really hard to build a successful company if you don't care and if you don't ask for feedback. And so have you heard of the EOS entrepreneurial system?
Yes. Traction. By
Gene Wickman.
Yes.
I think his dad's Gene Wickman. Anyways.
Yeah.
His dad was super successful, and now he's super successful with that. But they do the same thing. So we are part of EOS. We have an EOS coach, and we rate our meetings.
Okay, yeah.
Anything under a 9 out of 10 is a fail. And we have rocks, and we have all these goals, and we have a meeting schedule that we follow. But yeah, talk to me a little bit about, first of all, the people side. What and when we're on a podcast and when people are listening, what I found is people really value hearing about problems
Yeah.
or challenges because they're seeing the same thing. So for example, right now in Utah, a lot of my business owners are struggling to hire talent.
Yeah.
Because it's a really great job market. If you're an employee, you're getting offers, you're getting pay raises, you're getting hired away. And so tell me a little bit about the people side and what you feel has been the biggest challenge franchising from the personnel side.
Oh, it's a great question. I think that we like to say that we would joke like we're really a people company. Like we're almost like a staffing agency, kind of like as a corporate office. Like what our franchisees need the help with the most is people. And I notice you have good to great over there.
Yeah.
Right. That he just goes over, he says it over to first who, then what, first who, then what. He just says it endlessly. And I think that, something that we come up with in our first lesson and when we're interviewing, when we're talking to managers, like if you want to be a manager at Master AutoTech or if you want to eventually become a franchisee, we have 2 lessons and 2 things that we need, and only 2. Number 1 is attract and retain talent. Mm-hmm. That is it. Like that is number 1. If you can attract, it's hard to train that. Like you can't train charisma, you can't train personality, right?
Right.
But if you can attract and retain talent, it really doesn't matter what you're doing. And I want to go, and we kind of changed it just recently to say attract and retain people, because I think it goes beyond just employees. It's also customers, right?
Sure.
The same people that can attract and retain talent and employees, right? The same ones that are attracting customers too.
Right.
And so attract and retain people, man, we pound that into our guys' heads. And it's something that, and I don't know what book this came from, so I don't want to steal it, but it seems like, maybe it was, Jim Collins, but it was, if you have the right people, you can just throw the policy manual out the window, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't need one. You don't need bureaucracy. You don't need any of that, right? You are with the right people and everything works out. And it's just, kind
of like the saying, hire slow and fire fast.
Yeah.
You know, or just like traction, you know, the wrong person on the bus and the wrong person in the wrong seat on the bus is a problem.
Yep.
And we've had partners where it's just like, look, you're extremely intelligent. This partnership does not work though. Like our bus is swerving. We're about to crash. Like we need you to get off the bus and find a partnership that does work with your personality, your set of skills and the way you do things. And so, I think, and that's why I asked the question is I just assumed from talking to you that that's probably one of your keys to success is hiring talent, the right type of people with the right type of attitudes. And you're right. You cannot hire charisma. You can't train charisma. You can't train attitude either. And you can't train, personality really too much. And I think there's people who are here to help everyone, and there's people that are here just to help themselves.
Right.
And I would say my business partner, Lyndon, is a really good example of this. He's here to help people, and he's here to help me going through my divorce. Like my ex surprised me. She walked out of me and the kids and said, I'm done being a mom and a wife.
Oh my God.
And it was the day after Thanksgiving. I called Lyndon and I was like, so it gets crazier. We were about to close on 3 different deals in Dallas, El Paso, Cleveland, $45 million worth of purchases. And I laid that on Lyndon and my partner Tien at the time. She came in big time as well. And my partner Michael. I was like, I don't know how we're going to do this, but we had like 1.5 million in non-refundable earnest money out. My world was falling apart.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's the type of people. And I'm so glad I partnered with someone like Lyndon who was able to say, hey, I got you. I still raised the money and we still closed.
What's Lyndon's last name?
Lyndon Hansen. So yeah, I think, and that's an extreme example, but even on a daily basis, if you don't have time to help others, if you don't have the attitude, I mean, you can feel it. I imagine when people walk in your shops, they feel like the mechanic's there to help you. And if they don't, they're probably not coming back.
Can I ask you a question, Sam?
Yeah.
Okay. What you just described, biggest fear.
Yeah.
Just like my wife just like, cause we had this agreement, like, hey, like I told her on our first date,
Yeah.
I'm going to take over the world with Master AutoTech. Type of, it was a bit joking, but I was
That's
really
awesome.
young and that's what I wanted to do. I was just so gung ho, and blind, but, and I think that's something that she liked. Hey man, on a mission. Okay. I like that. But there's some times where I know that she had to give up her career so I could have mine. We both invested in me, so to speak. Right.
Yeah.
But I just know like waking up one day and be like, nope, I don't want to do this anymore. 4 kids, wife, like that's like my greatest fear. You went through it.
Yeah.
How did you like,
well, let's change gears and let's go to my friend John, whose wife of five kids, his wife and mother of 5 kids. She woke up one morning and you really can't say you woke up one morning. There was signs. And so the first thing I would say is no one wakes up one morning and says that. There was lots of signs and issues leading up to this. But she actually told him, and because I don't want to talk about my ex too much because of just that. When my friend John, she didn't even want to have custody. And he had a ton of properties, ton of money. And she said, you just give me this house. She goes, I'll watch the kids 9 to 5 so you can work, but I don't even want custody. And pretty crazy situation. And his world fell apart. I don't know him super well. Seems like a good dude. I mean, he's taking care of 5 kids and working. And there's been I've seen a lot of stories like that. And, there's just as many husbands that walk out. And so, my listeners will say, well, men do it too. Of course, everyone does it. I think, now that I'm in a relationship, been dating the same girl almost 3 years now. And relationships are tough. What I've learned is you really have to have that same attitude of what can I do for you? And so, when I was dating, I was on Tinder after like being married 12 years, and I like put in my profile, must have a career, like, I was pretty nerdy with it. I'm like, I don't want to waste my time with weird girls, that like don't have their stuff together. And so I'm dating Betty now, who she crushes it in real estate. She's a flipper and a real estate agent, great mom. And, but yeah, I mean, my marriage and then my friend John's marriage, his marriage was filled with, really just a huge struggle. And what I would say is I think a lot of people get married young, and maybe it's not even being young, but just not understanding who they are.
Right.
So there's people with different maturity and life experiences. I absolutely should not have gotten married at the age I was. I feel like I didn't even know myself till my mid 30s. I'm 38. My ex, very similar. So we really grew apart, and I was really, really committed to personal growth. Paid a huge amount of money and spent a huge amount of time on coaching personal growth. And I had a rough childhood, and so did she, and that's kind of how we bonded.
Yeah.
And my expectation was that we would rise together. And because of depression and other issues, it just didn't happen. And so it wasn't like she woke up one morning and was like, hey, I'm out. To her credit, she's doubled down and she's got 50% custody, and I think she's doing a pretty good job. But it was scary for a lot of years, and it was rough. And I would say, I've had a lot of friends. I feel like I'm at the age where a lot of people are getting divorced.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I'm 39. You're 38, okay. 39?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And I feel like it's because people are really understanding themselves.
Yep.
Or their partners finally understanding themselves. I don't believe in getting married young now that I've seen this happen so much. And again, maybe it's not necessarily young, but I think there's people develop very, very differently.
Yeah.
And some people, like I have a friend who, man, he's been the exact same person like his whole life. And he was extremely mature, extremely intelligent. The guy that you actually just saw walk out of here.
Yeah.
Hasn't really changed.
Yeah.
And I feel like me and my ex, like we were all over the place trying to figure out life, who we were, what we wanted. And that's pretty normal and natural. And unfortunately, a lot of people grow apart if you can't grow together.
Totally. I feel like I'm, a little bit in that boat of like, I don't know, it's cliche, but it's like, a guy marries a woman hoping she'll never change, and she does. A girl marries a guy hoping he'll change, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
Right? You know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there's like that whole thing. And so, you grow up and it's like, your wife, she's like, hey, I know that we were business owners, Republican. I'm not a Republican anymore. I follow the liberal side.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's new. I mean, we can still make this
Okay.
work. Hey, my wife, I don't want to be involved, in the religion anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, like we can work with that.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity. Like what do we believe, and what,
Yeah.
what are we actually on the same page on? And in our case, almost everything didn't change. It's like, well, I guess we still have the same value system. So
Yeah.
let's keep going,
Sure.
but that whole thing of just, like, oh man, that would be, Sam, that's a tough beat.
So actually my friend Matt's coming in actually right after this to be interviewed. And I would say he and his wife have had a really beautiful journey. They went from being married in the temple to both at different times questioning their faith.
Yeah.
And he's actually what he's coming in to talk about.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm not anti-Mormon. I'm not anti-religion. I'm anti-judgmental bad person. That's what I'm anti. And you find that in every religion, in every walk of life, right? So what I've seen them over the years do is both have pretty big lifestyle changes and belief changes. And because they love each other so much, they've been like, wow, I don't know if I agree with that, but let's play this out and let's see how this works. And not to dive too deep into my own story, but with myself, I was extremely supportive, made crazy amount of money, and I just was like, what more can I give you? We have a babysitter, we have a house cleaner, our vacation budget was like $100,000 a year because I thought that would make her happy, and I was like, I don't know what else I can do, and so I was trying to make her happy, and at the end of the day, my therapist was like, you just got to stop, and she's either going to figure out how to be happy and work this out with you or not.
Yeah.
And there was some pretty scary stuff with the kids, and I was luckily work from home dad since 2017, which was fun, really cool. The year that I made the most money, I was usually holding my baby in my arms, making calls, and it was like the coolest thing ever. I was like, I can't believe I made this much money, and usually is with a baby in my arms. Like really fun story for me, really fun memories. But in 2020, I said, hey, like we're going to marriage counseling. Like this has got to stop. Like I can't make you happy. I cannot force you to be happy.
Right.
And so we started going to a marriage and marriage therapist separately for about 6 weeks. And it was the craziest thing that has ever happened. It was the day before Thanksgiving, and that following Monday was going to be our first session together. And I was like, cool, like I wanted out of the marriage for years. Like it was rough. It was really dark and really rough. And but I was committed. I was never going to leave her. I was going to at least stay till my 3-year-old was 18. So I was committed to at least another 15 years of trying to make it work. And I figured we would. And I had just had this hour-long session with my therapist saying, what can you find that's good? Why did you fall in love with your wife? And she was my wifey. I absolutely loved her and would have done anything for her. And I had just gotten done with that. And then I got an email that was like, your lease has been accepted. And I was like, what the hell? Go upstairs. And she's like, oh yeah, I rented you an apartment. I want to get a divorce. I don't want to do therapy with you. I'm done. I'm done with everything. And I was like, are you sure? For the next 2 days, I was like, I will do anything for you. I remember telling her this. I was like, I will go to the moon and back for you. I've been miserable for years, but I will do anything for you to make this work.
Yeah.
And so I've had multiple discussions with people in the same situations, and they're like, okay, Sam, if you could go back now, would you still try to convince her? Hell no.
Yeah.
Hell no. I'm so much happier, and my kids are so much better off.
Yeah.
Separating from that. And it's kind of like the same business partner conversation I've had with many people. It's like, geez, people, wrong person in the wrong seat on the bus, like it will wreck the bus. And I didn't realize how much happier life could be.
Yep.
And I was so worried about my kids. Didn't sleep for months, worried about their well-being.
Yeah.
They're happier now. They're much better. And I actually have a Zoom meeting later this week. My friend just texted me going through the same thing. He's scared to death for his kids. He just texted me, and I was going to look and see what time it was. Anyways, we're going to meet later this week, and he's scared to death for his kids. And I'm like, you know what, buddy?
That's the first concern, right? Like,
yeah, but if you have a really bad marriage,
yeah,
like energy is real, like whether you believe in God or not.
Sure.
I don't care if you believe in God. Brain power, energy is so real.
Yeah.
And I guarantee your kids can feel that every day from their mom and their dad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you talk to my girlfriend has 4 daughters. And if you talk to one of them, she's like, oh, I'm so glad you guys got divorced. It was so bad.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
She's like, it was so bad. So now she can be happy with her dad.
Right.
And love the heck out of him. And she can be happy with her mom, and they don't have this conflict and fighting.
And what are you teaching them to, like, by sticking it out? It's like, I mean, it is good to show your kids some grit, at least a little bit, and you know, and resolve and commitment. But
I mean, they tried for 10 years.
But you wouldn't want them,
yeah,
right? You wouldn't want them to like stay in what you were going through. Like, that's not what you would want for your boys or your girls, you know?
Yeah. So like when my son's dating, I'm gonna be like, look, here's what. No one told me that. No one told me what to look for. No one told me how relationships really work. My parents, multiple failed marriages. And so, looking forward now, I mean, for listeners on the podcast that are going through stuff like this, I mean, you marry someone, you have an absolute obligation to fix yourself and do good and give it your all.
Yeah.
But if they're not, like, just cut your losses. Like with close friends, when they tell me they're getting divorced, I'll tell them congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm like, and they're like, what? And I'll laugh with them. I'm like, I know you have a shitty marriage.
Yeah.
Congrats. You can actually be happy now. And so can she, because guess what? You're not that good of a husband to her. And I've said that with a few guys, and it's like, it's a bittersweet laugh and conversation.
Totally.
But at the end of the day, they're like, yeah, actually, this is going to be really good, huh? It's like, yeah, man, it sucks. It's terrible.
But it's
going to be better for both of you.
I always think my mind kind of goes to a similar spot, people that are, it's so hard. And the only thing I think when they tell me like, hey, I think we're going to get a divorce. The thing that comes to my mind is like, oh my gosh, like, I know you. I know that if you are saying this to me, that means you have suffered so much for so long.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can think of is, it's going to get slightly worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
But, oh my gosh, like I'm so sorry that you suffered for so long.
Yeah.
That's what I think about. And
for real.
And for so many of them, it's like sometimes I think their sentiment is, sometimes it's easier to be miserable than just pretend to be happy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of people fear change and the unknown is really scary. You hear scary stories. That's why people don't start businesses. That's why they don't grow. That's why they stay at a dead-end job. That's why they stay a manager of a AutoTech instead of taking the opportunity to franchise and take the risk. People are really scared. I have 2 friends right now that have been putting off divorce, just putting it off because they're like, oh, that's going to be rough. And it's like, you're living with someone. Like, how did I do that for years? And I think back to that. And I don't know. I think if you're really committed to personal growth, I think it's impossible to stay in those type of situations, jobs, relationships, for too long, because eventually, and this is what my therapist told me. She told me this in 2018. So she was 2 years. She was right 2 years early. She's like, you just got to take care of yourself. She's like, honestly, like if you're a really good person and you're doing everything you say you're doing, Sam, eventually you're going to get to the point where you just can't do that for her anymore.
Yeah.
And I did. I absolutely I was like, I wrote her an email that I never sent. I sent it to my therapist. I was like, if there's something more I can do, I'll do it. I just don't know what I could possibly do for you.
Yeah.
Like, what could I, and because it wasn't me at that point.
Yeah.
And I have friends where it's absolutely their fault. They're getting divorced. Like, they're selfish people. but they also probably just should not have married that person either.
Yeah.
So it's a really bad partnership.
So your wife said she's the one that's like, hey, she called it. Do you ever look back at, I mean, obviously I hopefully there's at least some warm feelings there, but do you ever look back like with gratitude, like, I'm so glad you did that. I think I would have held on longer. Like,
I wasn't giving up.
Yeah. Like you pride yourself on your ability to like your commitment, your duty, your right.
I felt like I was a really good husband. I'm not perfect at all, but I ask people what their superpowers are. I can be a jerk. I can be out of line. I can get overly mad, lose my cool.
Yeah.
But I apologize quickly, and I always want to improve, and I accept feedback all the time. So we'd been to counseling a few times, and I'd be like, give me a list. I will freaking crush it. I will improve. Yeah. And that's how I treated my entire life. That's what led to a lot of my success is I'd ask my coaches, what do I need to improve? That's why I had coaches. Yeah. And she just didn't want that. It was a hard conversation. She couldn't handle that. And who knows why. She really didn't want me to ask her to improve. But I was really grateful to her for doing that. Really glad that my kids get to see a different side of me.
Yeah.
I was always the fun dad, work from home dad, but absolutely not happy. Couldn't be true to myself. And, my friend that's coming in, they've left their religion and they feel like they're able to be more true to themselves as well. And they've really changed a lot. There's people that stay in the religion and just get a divorce. So there's lots of ways to be true to yourself, and grow.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right way is, but the right way for me was her making that decision. So that's a great question. I do have a question for you. So we've got amazing opportunity to franchise your company. You're a people person. I can tell you help find talent. Or I guess one of the things that helps make you successful is finding the right talent, keeping those people. Tell me about family life though, because, I have 2 kids and now my girlfriend has moved in August. Yeah. We have 4 more. So we took a picture over Christmas for our Christmas card.
Yeah.
We recreated the Brady Bunch picture.
Oh, that's awesome.
So my mom, if you watch the Brady Bunch, and it's way before my time, but there was the mom, dad, the nanny, and then 6 kids. My mom, their grandma's the nanny in the picture. So we literally have the Brady Bunch at my house, and it's a lot. 6 kids is a lot.
That's it's loud.
A lot of personalities. My ex got the big, beautiful house. So we're in a kind of smaller house with 8 people, plus my mom stays like every other weekend. So I've got all these things I'm working through that are new to me. But, as you grow as a dad and a husband, what would you say something that's been tough in the last couple of years that you've had to personally grow on to become a better dad? Because every year the kids change. How old are your kids, by the way?
7 to 13.
Okay.
Right now.
Teenage years are coming up.
I know. I'm scared to death. My oldest she's an angel, and her name's Ariel.
You won't be for long.
No, she won't. But no, she's just wonderful. But yeah, I'm scared to death. She's like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But I'm more scared of just losing that sweet little girl. But I also am excited for her to change and grow. And I love one of the things I love about my wife is how feisty she is, and I think that I start to see little threads of her that she's really feisty. And so, I love it.
Yeah.
But as far as like growth, I think that, I think the rebrand has been a big challenge for me. And I know it's like, that sounds funny because it's like a business thing more than it is like a family thing. But, with a rebrand, you're looking at $250,000 a location. To give it a facelift.
Wow.
And to put those ACM paneling and the red and the signs and, the tear down and just everything. And so, it's expensive. And so it's been it's been a huge financial constraint.
Okay.
And that's something that we've never really had to fight with. Like, obviously you're in business, and we're very risk adverse, we try to only, go into debt for real estate, and we don't go into debt for anything else, but the rebrand, to take a 60-year-old brand and change it, it created like where it was like, my wife and I never, ever had to worry about money or like really budgeting. I guess that's so entitled.
That's awesome.
Now that I'm saying it,
Good for you.
and so I think we've had to go back and, had to put ourselves on a budget, and
Mhm.
I had to be accountable.
Oh, man.
And
What's your guilty pleasure?
yeah, let me get out the list. I personally keep swigging business. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But no, I think that I think that so yeah, I think we had to just grow together where it was like, hey, we're gonna have to put more. I think we're gonna have to put more money in this year than what we take out.
Interesting.
And that's just how it is.
And when did you started the rebrand in 2017?
Yeah, we started back then because
Okay.
we had, it was funny, it's Master Muffler. And you've probably seen our logo, right?
Yeah.
It's the muffler man. And so we were so self-conscious about, I'm getting off topic a little bit, but we were self-conscious about, one, the name master. Like, you're in real estate. There's no such thing as a master bedroom anymore.
Right.
What it's called, the owner's suite. Right. There's no longer a master drive and a slave drive in your computer.
Right.
There's also there's not a master cylinder and a slave cylinder in your car anymore.
Yep.
It's a brake cylinder and a clutch cylinder, but these are all like,
It's not
everyone,
PC.
everyone calls it a master cylinder, right?
Right.
And so, and then they, Ivy League colleges they're no longer call their professors masters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it has like a slavery connotation.
Negative connotation.
And we're Master Muffler. We have a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white Aryan-looking guy with his hand above his head.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh no.
It's not very diverse.
I know. It's like, oh no, like this is not very culturally sensitive. And so, we're like, what do we do? And so we started out with like a variation of the name Master, and that's what we wanted to do. But most of our research, we spent about $100,000. We're a muffler shop, for heaven's sakes. We spent $100,000 on research.
Holy cow.
To find out,
Yep.
and we spent probably, I would say, a quarter of that budget answering that one question.
Really?
Like, is our people culturally sensitive to the word master? Is that going to offend people?
Yeah.
And it turns out from the research that we did, people don't care. When it's associated with a trade,
Yeah.
there's nothing to be worried about. Like, we live in a cancel culture, but master is also a name for Jesus Christ, right? And he's trying to be canceled too in a lot of ways, but at the same time, like it has a very positive connotation as well. And it does have a negative one, but if you're associating with a trade, people don't care. They don't see it as racist or superiority or white privilege. So we did redraw the man to have, be a little more culturally friendly, a little bit darker skin, darker hair.
Yeah.
But we went for master. So we had a brand equity transfer is what we're selling it to ourselves as.
Yeah.
Right. Is like, it's not a rebrand, it's a brand equity transfer.
Sure.
Oh, that's funny. Anyway, but so we kept Master. So it's Master Muffler, Master AutoTech. We try to get people to associate the two brands. The man's kind of like our icon, and that's kind of our mascot, so to speak. So we try to transfer it over. But I guess to wrap it all up, your original question, like, hey, what's the challenge in the family? I think that when we rebranded, like, we went all in.
Yeah.
Right. Like, this is a time that, my wife she's leaving, the church, I think a lot of it's like, she's focusing on the question marks. I'm focusing on the exclamation points.
Yeah.
And it just kind of pulled us in different ways in regarding that, the religion and we're going through the rebrand, and it's a huge change. And like, I'm technically a second gener, right? It's always the second gen that screws things up, right? Like shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. Thank you, second gen, you suck, right? And so I'm trying to not be that gen,
Sounds like you're doing all right.
Yeah, well, I guess time will tell, but anyways, I think that we took the opportunity that you really have to get vulnerable. You really have to, in a rebrand, you have to really find out, dig into yourself and confront the brutal facts of your reality.
Yeah.
And see the ugly and see the everything that where you're falling short, and you're paying people to tell you in which ways you suck, and
Right.
and you have to confront that. And I think that,
was that with a third-party company you hired? And were they out of Utah or out of somewhere else?
They're out of California.
Okay.
And here's the funny thing. We all call her the red glasses lady. That's what she should call her company, because everyone knows that she always wears red glasses.
Huh.
This consultant, and she's the owner, and we got to work. Her name's Nicole Bergen, and I feel terrible. I don't remember her name, but the company's name. Sorry, Nicole, but your company is so forgettable. But you should call your company the Red Glasses Lady, because
we'll link it in the description.
Yeah, okay.
You can send it to me later.
Okay, she's amazing, incredible company out of California. She's brilliant, and she was very harsh, and she was very like no nonsense. Like, this is what's happening. This is what the data is telling us. But I think we also kind of took the moment, like, we took a moment to not just take the opportunity to rebrand our company and fix things that were wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but to also do it with ourselves. With something we say in our company a lot is, hey, you cannot improve your sales. We cannot improve our sales until we improve ourselves.
Wow.
And so this is that kind of the idea, like, hey, the next step is, we have to improve ourselves first. And so I would say kind of like, I don't know, like reinventing yourself, but you know what I'm talking, like there's this pull, there's this tug, there's always this voice that's kind of like pulling along, like, hey, be the best version of yourself.
For sure.
And as we're going through this rebrand, it was like, hey, like, I think there's some things that we got to clean out, not just with our company and our look and our image, but we have to become better with it.
But you paid a third party to come in and really, first of all, help you understand what would be more accepted by the masses for your logo, for your name. And then you went into, hey, what do we need to change as a company? You guys have been in business a long time. You've been running this since you were 21. Was that right? 39 now. So it's a lot of years. And I think it was 20. Geez, when was it? I think it was 2012. I did something similar, and I'd challenge our listeners and people to do something similar. And it's really, really crappy. It sucks, but absolutely one of the things that's helped me be very good about personal improvement is I sent an email, and I don't remember who told me to do this. I think it was a coach, but he said, send an email to 3 to 10 of your closest friends and family and tell them or ask them to give the 3 to 5 most annoying, awful personality traits and habits and things that you do that make you unlikable or that bug them. Yeah. And the rule is you cannot respond.
Okay.
The only thing you can do is say thank you.
Yep.
Do not make them pay a price for giving you feedback.
Yep.
I sent that to a fishing buddy, my broker, my coach, my wife at the time, bunch of friends, my dad, my sister, a couple coworkers in the office, and it was painful. Yeah. And I was like, "Oh dang, I didn't realize I'd do that. I didn't realize I did that." Like, yeah, okay, and it was extremely valuable, really, really valuable. And I've been told it's funny. I've worked at a few different brokerages, and I've tried to get better at this, but I'm shy and I'm an introvert. And I just don't love shooting the shit and talking with people. Like, it gives me anxiety.
Okay, yeah.
It's not that I don't want to be friends with people. I have freaking anxiety. Like, it scares me. Like, what do I say? And people would think I was arrogant and too good to talk to them. And I got told multiple times at different brokerages that I came off as arrogant and better than other people. And like, I was uninterested and didn't care. And I'm like, no, like, I want to be friends so bad, but I'm so shy. I don't know what to say. Like, I'm just freaking shy.
But at the same time, like, you're well put together. You're tall. What are you, 6'6"?
6'4", yeah.
And so people are probably naturally just already intimidated.
Yeah.
So they might have their guard up, and then you don't talk to them. They're like, oh, he's like this snooty, like
snob. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, anyways, that was interesting. I was like, wow, I got to act like I care about people. And I was told I was really boring and monotone. So I went around practicing being less monotone. And anyways, so you did that. You paid a third-party company to come in and tell you how to improve. And there's very few companies and very few people that I've seen in life and business that are willing to listen to feedback like that. So how was that experience? And was that painful at all? Did they kind of hit you to the core at all? Or
absolutely. It was tough to go through, and like in part of the surveys is like you'd put out your colors, you'd put out your logos, you put out your storefronts, and then you'd ask people to rate, the quality of the service based on what they're seeing.
Yeah.
You're asking people to rate, like, how honest is this place? Like, and we did like a customer group that was former customers. And then we did like the non-exposed group. So we did both. And the customer group, they were a little more gentle with us, but you find out, like, from the feedback, it's like, no, you are a rundown, second-rate den of thieves is what it looks like to me. I
Wow.
mean, some of the locations they're old, they're run
Yeah,
down,
yeah.
like, some people, I mean, that was the worst, right?
Sure.
But we never even thought about that. Like, oh, well, you said we understand the building's old, but I mean, gosh, that's not the vibe we picked up,
Right.
and we're over here thinking that we're the first alternative dealership. Bullshit. Like, no,
Yeah.
we're not. Like,
Wow.
we're not even close. We need a
Mhm.
serious facelift. We got some buildings that are 50, 60 years old, and we were living like in this bubble, I guess, that
Sure.
because we just took so much pride in our work. Like the outside of the building didn't reflect what was happening on the inside. People don't
You
judge.
understand your values and morals,
Yeah.
but you weren't communicating that to the public.
Totally. I feel like, and that
It's called being self-aware, and most people are not because you're just yourself. I wasn't aware that I was coming off as arrogant.
yeah.
I had zero intention of being arrogant. I'm just very dry, sarcastic, and shy. But I care about people. I always want to help people and be friends,
Yeah.
So you had that same experience.
Totally. We did that. We did something similar too. Like, we got feedback from, internally. I think, there's what you said resonated with me. I remember, I was struggling we were expanding into Idaho. We have 4 stores in Idaho, and I'm like, there was just some people, like, we'd go around, we'd ask people about their businesses, and I get strong reactions, like people would throw us out,
Really?
like get out, like just get out of here. And it turns out I'm like, what? Why am I struggling so much in Idaho? Like, what is it about Idaho people that don't like me? And
Is it in Boise? Or?
it was Southern Idaho. So Twin Falls,
Okay.
Idaho Falls, Rexburg,
yeah.
Pocatello. And the feedback I got is, hey, Brian, you come off as a city slicker.
Yeah.
You come off as a salesman. We hate that.
Yeah.
Like, and you don't wear jeans.
Yeah. So I'm from Boise. Eastern Idaho is like, yeah, you better sound like them. You better talk like them. They don't like outsiders.
No, they don't.
Boise's like that too.
Yeah,
absolutely. I've built fourplexes up there. I haven't been back since went to BYU, but I haven't lived there. But I've been back to develop, and they hate outsiders.
They do. Like, we love Idaho. Idaho doesn't love us.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. We're winning them over.
Yeah.
But it's true. You have to kind of embrace that culture. Like, don't California my Idaho. Like, that's kind of the, like, people are wearing shirts and have bumper stickers,
Oh yeah, it's huge.
And Utah's like a close second almost.
I got a funny story for you. So
Okay.
I'm at City Council in Meridian, Idaho, which is in Boise, outside of Boise, trying to get this fourplex development approved. And I mean, they came out with pitchforks. Like, they wanted blood. And one of the guys stands up and he's like, hey, I moved here 2 years ago from California.
Yeah.
And we just can't have any more growth. I don't want any more Californians moving here. And I'm like, I grew up in Boise, bro. Like, I grew up here. You moved here 2 years ago, and you're here with a pitchfork saying, no, deny this project because you moved here 2 years ago and now you want to close the borders?
Yeah.
Like, man. So we got denied 2 out of our 3 projects there.
Really?
We met every requirement. And Meridian City said, we just don't want the growth because it was an election year. And basically all of the neighborhoods came out and said, you guys aren't getting reelected because we just don't want apartments. We don't want growth.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm from Meridian, Idaho, grew up there. And going back was tough. But so we eventually did a couple projects, but yeah, it's interesting. You don't sound like them. You don't talk like them. But if you do, they're like the nicest people on earth.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's interesting.
I'm not surprised you're from Idaho. I feel like I love mining talent out of Idaho. They are, and I get the same vibe from you. It's like guys that they understand a hard day's work. They understand they want to produce more value than they receive. They work extremely hard. They're very very growth focused and oriented, and are willing to put in the work. Anyway, I think you put off that same vibe. Like, you're working hard here. Like, how many interviews have you done today?
Yeah. Well, this is my second.
It was okay.
But yeah, I have a pretty full schedule. So I sell real estate and then run the multifamily business.
Yeah.
And then I have the podcast as well. So,
Yeah.
and 6 kids.
Yeah. I want to ask you this, Sam, and I hope I'm not derailing the conversation too much, but I really am. I'm wondering how you manage this. I think I can learn a lot from you here. Sometimes I'm very growth oriented too. Like I love growth. Like we put our managers and our owners through a growth summit every year. We call it a growth summit.
Oh,
Everyone
awesome.
has to write a growth plan and they have to come together, present it to their growth group. And we have growth coaches and all growth, right?
Yeah.
And I have a tendency to find that when I have a growth mindset, I associate my self-worth with productivity.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And I don't know if that's healthy or not, right? And maybe it is. Maybe that I don't know. Like, I think that's probably a fallacy. That, yeah, the worth of a human is their productivity. Yeah, I don't think that that's correct. Although I sure feel that way. How do you balance that? Like, you have a growth mindset, but not equate your self-worth with productivity.
Well, you kind of do have to if you're going to achieve anything in life, right? So I've how do I want to say this? I've had employees in the past who really just wanted to show up and get paid.
Right.
And they felt like they were worth $1 million and I was like, can you please just do the bare minimum?
Right.
Please do the bare minimum. And they didn't. And I've had employees where like our girl, Iana right now, she's like 24. She was hired as a bookkeeper. She now is our CFO at 24.
Wow.
Like genius level, but also extremely hardworking.
Yeah.
Extremely hardworking and intelligent and great attitude. And I tell her I love her like every day. I'm like, we freaking love you. Like, you're awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I've had a lot of employees where I'm just like, you're always going to probably have the same type of job. You're unhappy. You wish your employer would pay you more. You complain about having to do stuff. And then there's people who are like, man, I wish I was getting more done. And so today I'm looking at my schedule like, holy crap, I cannot waste any time or I will not get I will not get everything done. Like that's my schedule right there. If you can see it, like it's,
oh my God.
I never leave myself time for lunch. Like I work from home usually. So I'll make a sandwich and eat during my Zoom meetings. But no, I think that's a really healthy way to view life as long as you're not too extreme.
Yeah.
So I have some of my investors are some of the highest producing realtors in the country. And that's one way I was able to raise a lot of money. And I have one investor who he's never taken his daughter camping.
Yeah.
He's never taken her on vacation. He is a workaholic and he harps on me all the time for not being available sometimes, which is rare because I'm usually available. So like, for example, after 2 p.m. on Wednesdays, I no longer work because my kids are with their mom Mondays and Tuesdays.
Okay.
Usually they're a little stressed out or because they're switching homes.
Yeah.
Or they're stressed out because of home life with her. And I saw that they'll get home from school and I'd be in meetings and they're like, Dad, we need you. We need attention. We need love. We need hugs. And so it stresses me to freak out because I have so much to do. We grew really fast and it's been tough to balance. But I would say you got to have a healthy amount of that with a healthy amount of understanding what's important in life.
Yeah.
You also, and so, yeah, so part of the answer is you really have to tie yourself to activities and productivity. You're never going to have 27 Master AutoTechs by just being in love with a business plan and having this great idea. Lots of people have ideas. You actually have to produce. You're also not going to have a happy home life if that's all you do. And so I'm focusing really hard. And I have ever since, my daughter was born, my oldest, really having quality time and spending quality time with the kids and with the family. And then, there's lots of great leaders that have said this, but you got to measure results. You have to. That's the only way people make money, people make progress. So there was another idea that popped in my head when you asked that question. So we're talking about tying maybe self-worth or happiness or something to productivity.
Yeah. Now I bet you're a guy, you go on vacation. Can you relax, or do you have to do something productive before you can relax?
Vacation stresses me out, but I've gotten pretty good. I didn't take vacation for a long time.
Yeah.
And then I started taking vacation as I became successful. And now it's like, okay, I've been stressed out enough in life. Like, I'll take a nice vacation. I went to Alaska for 5 days in September and didn't even look at my phone. It was awesome.
Oh, good for you.
It was awesome. Caught some crazy fish. But most of the time, the rest of the year, I'm like on my phone. I don't care if it's 9 o'clock at night. Unless I'm really trying to spend quality time with my kids, I'll help a client and I'll answer the phone. What I'm seeing and what's very, very common, I don't know if it's more common in our culture now, is the opposite. People that just want a cush job, send 5 emails, show up and get paid. And I think that's way more dangerous. And I know a few people who they constantly complain about their job. And I'm like, bro, like you have a pretty dang good job. Like you're making $60,000 a year for a 9 to 5, and they actually give you this, this, and this, and you don't even have a degree. And so I don't know. I've watched people who struggle financially, but they really don't want accountability to productivity.
Right.
They want to clock in and out and do the bare minimum. And it drives me nuts, drives me crazy. And I've had employees where I'm just like, dude, you're barely here. And I actually had a kid quit. Okay, here's a funny story. I had a kid quit and we'd give him a couple bonuses to help buy a house. And he just thought he was crushing it. And he quit, went and got a nice job offer. And I was like, hey, well, let's do an exit interview. I'm like, just so you know, you've been close to getting fired like 3 different times.
Yeah.
And I should have written you up and I was about to fire you again. Because he asked for a letter of recommendation. I was like, I'll write the letter of recommendation because I think you're a really good person. I should have taught you these lessons and I probably should have fired you.
Yeah.
Because you failed at your job in a huge way. And he was really upset. And a few times when I'd ask him to do stuff, he just did not want to do it. And I started measuring his productivity and I didn't write him up. I was kind of busy doing other things. But I think a lot of people really don't want to be accountable. So the way I built my real estate business is cold calling 3 to 4 hours a day. So today I had an accountability to get 2 hours of cold calling, and that's how you and I got connected.
Yeah.
Because there's no faster way for me to get business. I can advertise, I can get referrals, but if I just cold call 2 hours a day out of my 10-hour workday or 8-hour workday, I'll make great money. And so I have a commitment to do that. And that's available to everyone. I think there's 26,000 realtors in Utah right now.
Wow.
Most of them will be out of business within the next 2 years. And then 3 to 5% of them, maybe 7% will make 98% of the money. And so it's the people that are willing to be held accountable and be productive, I feel, that are successful in life. It's funny, there's been this Kobe Bryant meme all over Facebook and Instagram. I don't know if you've seen it, but he's like, I don't even relate with lazy people. And I don't want to be around them. I don't want to associate with lazy people. I have nothing in common with them. I don't want to be around them. And not that we can't be friends, but I feel that. Like I feel when I hang out with those people, I'm like, man, I can just tell, like the way you talk about your job, the way you talk about life, like what you're doing, like you just, I don't know. Why do you think people would rather sit around and do nothing than improve their lives? Because that's not obviously the people that work at Master AutoTech. That's not them. Like if they're franchising, they're accountable and they're
Absolutely.
super productive. So I don't know. It's interesting. But do you feel like you are too hard on yourself?
I think that I'd say that, yeah, I'm probably harder on myself than I am, everyone else. I think Freudian theory would say that would, like, yeah, if I'm upset with like someone, if I have a problem with someone, it's usually, a part of myself I have a problem with. I think a lot of things you were saying resonated with me as far as, I agree that, we've been talking about the feedback loop. And
Yeah.
I think that you not robbing people of that feedback loop.
Mhm.
Some people need
Yeah.
some people need a feedback loop, like with a chair in the face, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's so tempting when you're an employer, like, oh man, you have to let people know how they're getting along, and you have to do it every day.
Yeah.
And that's it's tough because you don't want to, interrupt any harmony that you
Sure.
have going on, but letting people know how they're getting along is been a challenge, is a challenge for me, of just like, I have to let you know, like, it's my job to establish expectations. It's my job to,
Yeah.
and it's my job to make sure that, that you know where that, yeah, just how you're getting along, giving credit where credit is due, catching people doing things right. Those are all things that I'm hoping that I'd like to say I do it all the time, but I agree with you. Like, I'm too many times. I think my biggest pet peeve is, when a manager comes in and says, "Hey, yeah, we got to let this guy go," and it's like, okay, I'm happy to do it. Like, I'm not afraid to be
Mhm.
the bad guy, and I'd probably want to hear it coming from me. But when I come in and I ask the question, "Do you know why you're being let go?" and they have no clue,
It's a problem.
that is my biggest pet peeve. Like,
Yeah.
they should have been told, warned. If I'm coming to see you, you know exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
And then again, I'm an offender of that, of not, letting people know how they get along. But I think that's like what you said, like, oh, that, and sometimes the best thing that you can do for someone, the best thing you can do
Mm-hmm.
is to let them go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it's gut wrenching. And you're a monster if you don't
Yeah.
feel like that knot in
not
your
fun.
stomach. Yeah. But at the same time, like, oh, it really is, like, I haven't had anybody thank me yet, come back and thank me, like, thank you for firing me, but
Yeah.
I've heard the story, and I try to make sure that we're judicious about who we do that to. But oh man, I agree. I think that's something that don't deprive people of the feedback loop, and I think as long as what you care about in your heart is in that individual, and the long-term growth and benefit of the individual and the company, man, I think it's hard to do it wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
And we've done it. And I think if you get good at giving people feedback, it's
Yeah.
a lot easier to fire them.
Yeah.
And that person who ended up quitting, he was about to get written up. I wasn't going to fire him. I was going to write him up,
Yeah.
have a really good discussion. I'd done his write-up. I just hadn't given them to him for months.
Yeah.
So I was going to give him like 4 or 5 different write-ups. Like, dude, you
Yeah.
should have been fired by now. Do you want to improve and stay, and give them the choice? Other employees, it's been like, hey, here's your write-up. Like, love you, but you can't do that. And I read a parenting book back in the day, like, do not punish your kids with anger.
Yeah.
You better. And so my goal is to be in control. And I lose my temper sometimes, especially with 6 kids now. Like,
oh, totally. Yeah.
I gotta go on a walk because I'm going to lose my mind here. But
Yeah.
but from the very beginning, and I was a lot better at this when they were younger, is I would smile at my kids, be like, I love you, but you cannot do that. That is such a big no-no. And now that they're older, I'm like trying so hard. It's like, you cannot freaking hit your sister. That is not okay. I love you so much, but you're in huge trouble.
Yeah.
And my almost 7-year-old, he's huge, but he's got 5 older sisters now.
Yeah.
They pester the hell out of him, and he's passive and kind of like me, shy.
Yeah.
And then he'll just lose it.
Yep.
And kind of the same thing with employees. Like, you've got to be able to communicate. Like, no, you can't do that. Love you. Like, you're not a bad person. And that's my big thing I try to do with my kids. Like, you are not a bad person. We're not angry with you, but you messed up. Like, you really messed up. Like, that is not okay.
Yeah.
And I need to get better about that.
And I think you hit something right on the head. If you are doing a good job of giving people that feedback, let people know how they're getting along. You'll do that. A lot of times people will fire themselves.
Yeah.
Right. They'll be like, I'm not getting it. Like,
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's what happened in this situation. It's like, hey, we're here. But at some point he's like, yeah, I'm not.
Yeah. That's what happened with our partner a couple of years ago. She stepped out. I was like, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. Like, I need you to show up. And we made her a lot of money bringing her in as a partner. And she was just, and I asked her to step in, and she's like, okay, I'll do that, but I'm really not on board for this and this and this. And I was like, okay, no. So we renegotiated and talked about responsibilities with our EOS coach.
Yeah.
And I just set a hard rule. And the hard rule, I said, these are our standards.
Yeah.
Everyone's got to hit those. And it was funny. We actually graded ourselves. And me and Lyndon passed and she failed. And a week later she resigned. She's like, yeah, I don't fit in the company.
Yeah.
I'm not as committed as you guys. I'm really, and she's completely out of real estate now. So it's
Wow.
interesting. And she was bright. She was extremely smart, really fun girl, helped us with a lot of things, but at the end of the day, just wasn't right. So
Sam, are you the integrator or are you the visionary? Who are you?
right. You know, what's interesting is, definitely the visionary.
Okay.
And I've tried to hire integrators, since I started doing this in 2018.
Okay.
And failed multiple times. It's multifamily's tough, and you know, we grew really, really fast. So we have over 2,000 doors. So I've hired people, and actually one guy I'm still close friends with, but he integrated real estate offices and couldn't pull it off in multifamily. So now I'm the integrator and the visionary, and I realized with my business, you know, I probably should have started with an integrator as a partner. My partner, who I have, is kind of CFO, financials, not systems, but financials.
Yeah. He's the bean counter. Like, right, you got to have one.
Oh, he's way smarter than me. Yeah, way smarter. He's got his master's from BYU Hawaii in corporate finance. So smart guy. Yeah. So he runs the finance side of things, and I'm actually a really good integrator. And we did all the tests with EOS and everything. And eventually, we'd like to hire out an integrator for sure. We haven't grown in the last year. The market's been insane. We put the brakes on and said, let's watch and wait. Let's not buy at 10% interest right now. Yeah. It's been interesting growth, doing both. And it's been fun. So I usually like to end the podcast with a few questions.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I feel like we need to do a part 2 here in a few weeks or so.
Sure.
Because there's other life questions I wanted to talk about. But from being a parent to being a husband, everyone has their own unique challenges, right?
Yeah.
Is there a book, a podcast, or any one thing that you could recommend to someone if they're struggling in their marriage or struggling as a parent or just in business itself? What's something that you would say, hey, that actually helped me quite a bit?
Oh, it's like, okay, so business or marriage?
Whatever pops out.
Okay. I'd say that, and I'm pulling up my my Audible thing right now, just to show what I'm listening to right now. I think that there's been a lot of research right now on attachment theory, right? Like where before, like it seemed like back in the olden days, right? It was all about the 5 love languages, right? The 5 languages, and everything was looking at through this lens through 5 languages. And I actually think that's a great book, and there's a lot of great truths. I think it helped a lot of people, and I also think it's totally antiquated. You know, it was a good start, and it got people having a conversation, but I don't think it was necessarily founded in like facts or science, you know, and I feel like there's kind of a new one. Maybe it's a craze, maybe it'll get eclipsed, but it seems like attachment theory, you know, you probably heard a little about it.
Oh yeah.
Being secure, or being
anxious attachment.
Anxious attachment style, secure attachment style, or avoidant.
Yep.
And kind of learning about what you were. I'm definitely avoidant. My wife is anxious.
Okay.
Yeah, we paired with of course we did. You know, we're trying to move closer to be more secure, both of us. You know, and I told you at the beginning, I'm avoidant. My greatest fear is my wife just waking up one day and be like, I don't want this anymore. I'm like, fearful avoidance, right? That's me.
Yeah.
And trying to learn live this idea, you know what? Yeah, she could leave tomorrow. You have to embrace that, and you have to choose to show up every day. If she, so reading a book by Sue Johnson, Hold Me Tight. It's a great one. Yeah, it's attachment theory, and she has like a British accent, so everything she says sounds brilliant. You know what I mean?
It's easy to listen to.
Yeah, and so she's great, and I think the book, like when you read a book and they describe you perfectly without even meeting you, you're like, crazy. How the hell did you do that? So,
that's crazy.
So I'd say for marriage, that one has been very insightful, and also helping understand my wife, like, being the opposite and understanding a secure, like anxious personality. Oh my gosh, help me navigate the waters.
Yeah.
So well. So anyway, love that. And then I think, right now, Gosh, we're we're kind of bouncing. We every year we read a book as a company, right? And that kind of is kind of the theme of the Growth Summit. And right now, our executive team is reading Traction and rereading
Nice.
Traction. I need to ask you later about who your coach is, because I think we're trying to self implement, and I'd say we're moderately successful,
Okay.
if not at all. So I think we are probably going to need to get some help there. But I think the book we read this last year was Start with Why
Okay.
by Simon Sinek.
It's a good one.
And we felt like that was appropriate as we were, and we felt like it was appropriate because of the rebrand, and I don't know if you don't know, Simon Sinek's got some, I actually really like his style. Some people sometimes I wonder why some of his books don't have a higher rating than they do. But anyway, I really liked it. I think it helped the company, help us get on board, help the employees understand their individual wise, but also help the company, hey, we've got to speak from this core. Why does our
Sure.
business exist? And what is the core emotional benefit, that we provide to the world? And so anyways, I'd say that one, as far as from a rebranding perspective, I feel like that one's a great place to start. If you're rebranding, oh man, I think that's a really
No, that's great. That's great. And there's been a bunch of surveys about this, but when you're talking about Start with Why, I'm thinking, car mechanics.
Yeah.
I've had some really bad experiences.
I'm so sorry.
And,
It's our fault.
But what's funny is, who's rated worse, least trustworthy than a car mechanic is a lawyer.
Okay.
And the worst rated, other than criminals, is actually realtors.
Oh, really? Okay. I was like salesman, mechanic, lawyer is usually what I hear, but
So,
realtor. Okay.
Mechanic, lawyer, realtor.
Okay.
People see these terrible realtors get paid a huge amount of money, and
Yeah.
some of them just don't do anything. They do a terrible job. Okay, so we got to end because my next interview's here, but we'll do this again. I just sold someone's house. It's under contract. They were on the market last year for 6 months, couldn't sell. They have huge amounts of liens on their house. They're in medical debt. They got a solar panel system they shouldn't have bought for 50-something thousand. So I called them, cold calling again.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, give me a shot. Let me try and sell this thing. Your pictures were terrible. Your marketing was terrible. They're like, yeah, we could never get a hold of them. And so, I go out, put the house up for sale. I'm like, it's super sellable, but it's close to what they have equity. They have I think they had 100,000 in equity and 96,000 in liens. So I'm like, you're going to walk away with $1,000 to $4,000. And they're like, cool, because we're about to file bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And so the reason I'm talking about this is service and changing the way people perceive us. I'm all about helping people, and I really enjoy doing that. So listed their home, did a great job marketing, got multiple offers, sold it for $11,000 above asking. Fantastic. There's things I do that just your average realtor will never know how to do. I'm not going to tell, but there's things that I do that I know for sure. And when I was new, I didn't understand this.
Yeah.
I know for sure I'm going to make you more money than another realtor can. I know for sure because I'm really freaking good at it, and I love helping my sellers. So, okay, not only did I sell it for 11 over asking, I personally acted as a negotiation attorney to start negotiating down their liens. And it's not done yet, but I think here's the best part. They ended up having $155,000 in liens, not $96,000.
Oh,
so they were negative $60,000. They couldn't sell. Because I've negotiated down a bunch of their liens for them.
Yeah.
And we're talking they're blue collar. They're not, they're just not capable of doing it themselves.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do. They're now, I think, pocketing close to $20,000. After everything's said and done, they were negative $60,000 because they didn't even know they had these liens on the house. And so anyways, the difference between a realtor who had their house up for sale just said, sorry, you better go bankruptcy.
Yeah.
They're losing everything if they follow his advice, to where now I'm like, no. I've done this before. I'll freaking go to bat and I will negotiate your liens down for you. And at least don't go the bankruptcy route yet. You got nothing to lose. And I mean, they're crying on the phone now. They're like, what, $20,000 in our pocket? They're retirement age. So, Anyways, kind of a crazy story, but I have a mechanic like that.
Mm-hmm.
I have a mechanic like that I helped my girlfriend buy her 17-year-old a car. This green, like forest green Lexus that was mint condition, had a few things wrong with it that I could tell. And I took it to 2 different mechanics, and they were like $6,000 to $7,000 to fix it. I'm like, dude, we bought it for $2,500. Like, it's a '94 Lexus.
Yeah.
And then I remember my friend's dad in Vineyard, and I'm like, okay, let me go talk to this guy. $800 later, he's like, dude, you probably should fix a few of these things, but it'll go another 3 to 5 years with the $800 of fixes that I did. And my girlfriend's a single mom, and I was like, that's awesome. And so it just broke down again, and he's like, just don't pay me. I Venmo'd him $50. Took him like 2 minutes to fix what was going on with it. But it's people like that, and people like I can tell you're very service oriented, that really change perception of people and change people's lives and help people. So now there was a guy in Midas in Orem. He moved, freaking loved that guy. He helped him with like 5 different cars. Now the guy in Vineyard, and I'd be excited to see how you guys perform on my stepdaughter's car as well. Because now my mechanics has carpal tunnel. He's kind of out of business. He can't do it anymore. And it's people like you that focus on service and growth that change those perceptions of realtors, the worst person you can trust, lawyers, mechanics. There's a reason that those polls are true. There's a reason. And then there's a few people that, actually go above and beyond. And I think that's really what life's about. Again, we kind of started this conversation with, how can I help you? And that's for me, that's fun. For me, that's what life's about. How do I help you? How do we all help each other and just enjoy? Yeah, we can make a lot of money, but there's a lot more to life than that.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, we can't get our time back.
Yep.
Right. And so, and I tell my employees this, I say, what the company spends on us is a pittance to what we spend on it, because it gives us money, sometimes good money, a lot of money. But we give it our time, and that's something we can't get back. And so we're going to give it our time, the most valuable thing we have. It better be worth a damn. It better be worth something. It better be something for something good. It better be for a good cause. And I think for most people, it's people getting burnt out or not like their job. Like you have to feel the purpose of what you're doing every day. Yeah. And so anyway, I know that totally resonates with me. All right. My parting question for you, just it helps me get to know you.
Yeah.
What's your dream car? I need to know what you currently drive, and what your dream car is.
So I currently drive a 2500 Ram diesel.
Okay.
What
year?
It's a 2022.
2022 Ram diesel.
Fully loaded. I double tow. So I have a 21-foot camping trailer that I pull a fishing boat behind. And love that truck. I'll probably drive it forever. But in 2018, I set a goal to make an extra 100,000. I'd already made a million that year.
Yeah.
I just broke my mic. And I was like, I need to keep pushing. Let me make another 100,000 this year. If I do, I'm going to buy a Dodge Challenger Hellcat. And so I hit it, and I went and bought my Challenger Hellcat, and literally put a smile on my face every time I drove. It was purple. So growing up, I had a neighbor with a plum crazy purple 70 CUDA with a Hemi. So my Challenger they don't make CUDAs, but they make Challengers. So that's what I got. And it was fun. And I put the Hemi sticker on the side, 700 horse, which is useless because you can never get traction.
Right. Getting to hook up.
The few times I did, it was pretty damn fun. So now I don't, my coach asked me what my dream car is right now. And I just go drive race cars in Vegas once a year at the track. And I
like exotics racing.
Yeah, go to exotics racing. And that's fun. So I don't know that I have one right now. I had the Hellcat, and that was so much fun. Right now I'm focused on putting 6 kids through college and my niece and nephew through college, and got to support my mom. And so right now the goal is really just to build this real estate portfolio up big enough where, eventually I'll probably get probably a Lambo, if I could say dream car.
Okay. All right. There it is.
Probably a Lambo, but right now I've got a lot of investing to do till I get there. So anyways, thanks for that question. That was fun.
Awesome.